talk about Project Daisy, which is something that we haven't talked about in a few weeks on the show, actually, because they've kind of gone quiet since announcing that the service was going to happen a few months ago. The service is due to start, operating probably in Q3, Q4 of this year. The company, of course, is backed by Jimmy Iovine from Beats by Dr. Dre, and is looking apparently to strike a deal with a mobile carrier. So that makes a lot of sense. AT&T apparently is in the picture, and this would allow the service to ramp up its user base super quickly without having to go through millions of dollars of marketing spend or doing too much work on that front, because of course AT&T would grant them a huge user base from the get-go. So first of all, where do you see Daisy being in terms of a negotiating position? Like, do you think that AT&T has got a stronger position in the sense that it can offer Daisy this huge platform, or does the association with Beats by Dr. Dre actually, or is that strong enough by itself to actually carry the service and help it strike a decent deal with one of these operators? Steve, what's your take on that from a US perspective?
I feel like AT&T could walk away from this deal easier than Daisy and Beats could. I mean, I unless I'm missing something, like obviously, Beats has been a very successful company. The people behind it, Jimmy Iovine and Ian Rogers, really good people. And I imagine that when their service finally does roll out, it'll be something interesting, something cool. But right now, it's just sort of hard to conceptualize. There's so many really strong players in this space. Why would I want to do Beats' streaming service when I have Spotify or Mog or Rdio or Songs or whatever else it is, plus buying stuff on iTunes? It just seems crowded. So I guess that'd be my feeling about it. I feel like it would be a hard sell to take this sort of vague, we're going to do this great service kind of thing to a major company like AT&T. However, I'm not privy to all the details, I'm sure, and Jimmy Iovine is a much better and more experienced deal maker than I am. So.
Yeah, sure. Nikke, looking at this potential deal, we look back at what has happened in the streaming space to other companies like Spotify, for example, which has made successful deals, for example, in Germany with the carrier there and a few other countries, but it hasn't really managed to land a major carrier deal in the US. And some blame it on the fact that it's a brand recognition problem, because Spotify is still in its it's growing, but it's still not a major company in terms of being recognizable. How do you feel about AT&T choosing a newcomer like Daisy instead of somebody like Spotify in the US to come into the market with a streaming service offering?
Yeah, well, I think, like, from my point of view, when Beats and those guys, like when they bought MOG didn't have any technology that was superior to their competitors. It was basically falling back with the race. Yeah. And now, like since Jimmy Iovine, or however you say his name, I can't pronounce it. He got in board. Like, there's been a very good PR effort on, like, how Daisy will be this, like, direct to fan kind of different version, and kind of the kind of a top spin angle of how you're connecting the fans direct to the streaming space. Yeah. But, like, so far we haven't seen any features that would, like, put them ahead of their competition. I think, like, something they've emphasized a lot is curation and the importance of curation. But then also I would argue that, like, if you're trying to build a global service, how do you do curation? Yeah. Wouldn't you then need some kind of mechanical curation with human curation? And then that being said, Spotify's kind of recommendation features are actually pretty good. And I think, like, they have a lot of work to do to be able to compete with Spotify and Rdio.
Absolutely.
And currently they're falling behind, and there's just this big promise of, like, this new service, but a lot of the hype comes from, like, the people involved. So I think, like, they have to deliver on what they're promising.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're gonna see something concrete soon and not just talk.
Exactly, and Sitar, that makes a really good point, because you've worked with a lot of early stage companies and saw them through to launch. And so how do you feel about the tactic of hyping up the company so much from the get-go? Is it incredibly dangerous to create the image of this like really cool new layout, new way of offering the music catalog, the type idea, when we don't really know if the company is going to be able to deliver. And if it can't deliver to the standard that it promised, then it's going to be seen as a failure, even if it is a decent service.
I usually find that tactic fairly dangerous. And I don't know that there's a lot of benefit to it, although I think Topspin, Ian's previous company, took the same route.
Yeah.
And again, I think it was a dangerous route for them because they ended up under-delivering a lot initially, especially on the self-service marketing bit of it. So I'm surprised they went down the same route again. Then again, with the people involved, I'm not sure you could have done this in a stealth manner.
Yeah.
There's some pretty big names, so I'm not sure they had a choice about it. Also, I think, the Beats, it is quite a good technical product, the headphones, but it's also brilliant marketing.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they would have chosen any other route. And then in terms of whether there's really an opportunity for them, if you were to say all people want is just access to all music, then I would say no, because I think you can already get that. Not even on Spotify, frankly, most people get it on YouTube, which is the single biggest music provider in the world. But actually the problem isn't that. The problem is one of user experience, and the Spotify user experience hasn't changed in about 5 years. It's an incredibly dated user experience. And some of the stuff they've released recently, especially with Discovery, I think is moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
But if Daisy has any opportunity, it'll be, I think, in providing just a much better user experience for people, particularly around playlisting, which is, I think, an area where Spotify just hasn't done nearly as much as they could have.
Yeah, and so that makes a lot of sense. But also, like, one of the things that I was thinking is, of course, it makes sense for them to have started with this huge, bombastic type of campaign on the fact that they're going to be the best service out there, if they want to land a carrier service like that, because then they already have the hype, and then it's a chip in their pool to be able to play with somebody like AT&T to say, look, we've already had all this press, everybody's excited about it, if you do a deal with us, then people are going to be excited about it, they're going to report it, they're going to talk about it, and all that. So maybe that's another reason why they decided to go for the sort of all-out we're going to be the best type scenario.
Well, the other, I think, angle to that is I think Beats has generally a very positive sentiment amongst consumers.
Yeah.
I don't think AT&T does. Just guessing that AT&T does not, and it could be that AT&T also just wants that brand association.
Yeah, would make a lot of sense.